somehow with the map what he had, the narrator checks which is the nearest island and he decides to reach there. This Jonathan has told these words, isn't it? So he does not fear death as long as they all are together. This story is an example of lot of optimism and the struggle, the determination that is there in each and every person at that point of time when they were about to die. Hello everyone, a very warm welcome to all the young minds of class 11 CBSE. I am Dr. Shalini here, your English teacher at Prep School. Today we are here to understand one of the adventures that is written by two authors, that is, We Are Not Afraid to Die If We All Are Together. So let us see what is there in today's session. Personally, this is my favorite because this is an adventure and I love adventures. So let us see what is there in today's session. We are going to understand about the author, then we'll learn about the background of this story. At last, we'll understand the summary of this short story. So let us see who are the authors here. There are two authors for this story. So one is Gordon Cook. Gordon Cook is actually a two-time Canadian Olympic sailor. So he used to contest in Olympics, that is in sailing. He represented Canadian Yacht Club. So he has already represented this in the Olympics that was held earlier. The other author, the one author is Gordon Cook, I told you. The second author is Alan East. He was a litigator. He was a manager and a legal trainer. So both of them have written this. More of ideas have come from Gordon Cook. So talking about Alan East, he was the co-founder of a multi-academy trust, Central Academies Trust. That is, it has an aim to improve the standards in secondary education. So this Alan East was actually mostly into education sector. Okay, so the first author, that is Gordon Cook, is actually the original author. That is, he has contributed lot of ideas towards this short story. There is very less given about these authors, but let us see what the story has to tell us. So let us see what is the background of this story. This story is all about the extreme courage that is exhibited by Gordon Cook, his family and the crewmen in the fierce seas of this southern Indian Ocean, and how they survive the water and how they are successful in reaching the land. So that is what they are talking about in this story. So let us start with the first part of this short story. So beginning of the voyage, that is in July 1976, the narrator, that is one of the authors, that is the narrator, his wife Mary was his wife, and son Jonathan and daughter Susan. Son Jonathan was 6 years old and Susan was 7 years old. So all of them, they start from Plymouth, England. They start their voyage from there and they wanted to duplicate the around the world voyage that was taken up by Captain James Cook 200 years ago. They just wanted to have a replica of that. They wanted to do their voyage in the same way. For this voyage, they have been honing their seafaring skills from a very long time. So how many years they took? They took almost 16 years to perfect their skills. Okay, honing is nothing but perfecting their skills. So they have had a professionally built boat also, a kind of small ship, okay, so which was 23 meter and 30 ton weighing, okay, 23 meter long and 30 ton in weight. It was a wooden hulled boat and its name was Wave Walker. So they were all set in that Wave Walker. They had taken that Wave Walker to the rough seas and that Wave Walker was actually tested in extreme conditions also. Okay, so this was the beginning of the voyage. Only these four have started first, but later they wanted to pick up two crewmen also. So let us see what happens next. So the initial period of their 3-year journey. So this is actually the total journey was supposed to be for 3 years. Okay, so the initial part of the journey, that is from west coast of Africa to Cape Town. So this part of the journey was quite pleasant. Okay, they did it very smoothly. It went on very smoothly. They reached Cape Town very easily. From there, they were supposed to head towards the eastern side. Fine, they had to head east and there they had to reach this southern Indian Ocean. They were supposed to tackle this southern Indian Ocean and they had to cross that. So for that, they wanted to pick up two crewmen. So the people who are there in the ship are called as crewmen, and these people wanted to pick up two crewmen, namely Larry Vigil and also Herb Siegler. So they wanted to pick them up from there. So after that, there struck a catastrophe. Okay, so they picked up these crewmen and they started their journey. Fine, they continued their journey. So that time, the second day, that is the second day of their journey, strong winds started coming over. So strong winds started, and it was at the alarming waves. Means it was very scary. The waves were very high. It was not at all calm. The earlier journey was really very calm, but now it is something opposite. So now waves started coming very badly. So they started experiencing severe weather conditions also. Despite the bad weather, what they did, they somehow celebrate this Christmas, okay, on the boat only. So somehow they celebrate Christmas on the boat only. Christmas is very important for them, isn't it? So they somehow celebrate it on the boat only. They wanted to just have a ray of hope. So thinking that this would calm the situation and this would bring them peace. So they celebrate Christmas on the boat itself with minimum necessities. Okay, so they do that. Then on the early morning, the new year also, there was no improvement in the weather. So Christmas, it was celebrated on Jan 25th. Then after that, the weather condition was deteriorating. Somehow they were struggling. And the new year also, it was like that only. There was no improvement in the weather even during the new year. Then on the morning of January 2nd, okay, after that new year, the family faces strong and mighty waves. There were huge waves. They were not able to face it at all. They could see huge waves. They could see huge, the fierce wind blowing, everything. So very harsh weather conditions they had to face. So they tried to carry out the life saving drills. So life rafting drill they tried, and they also prepared themselves for the worst possible case. Fine, they had to prepare themselves for worst possible cases, and also they don their life jackets, oily skin, everything they tried. So what and all possible for in order to keep themselves safe, everything they had tried. Fine. So now they were supposed to be prepared for whatever worst that could come before them. Then what happens later that evening? Perfectly vertical, huge wave, means it was almost straight. Fine, all waves were blowing like this, but this one was perfectly straight, and that wave actually attacked the boat of these people. So that it hits the deck of the boat. So there was a deck, and that was hit, and the narrator was thrown off of the boat. So from that deck he was thrown off. Somehow he survived. He just held some railings and he came back to the boat. The boat just overturned. The boat was just overturned. Fine. It was about to fall into the sea, overturned, but there was another wave which came and turned it back. So it was about to fall, but it did not fall, it did not overturn, it again came back. So now you can imagine what might be the situation of people over there. They'll be thrown here and there, and those two children also were there in the cabin. So those two children also were there. So just imagine what might have happened. The boat was about to be overturned, but it was again put back to its position by another wave. Then what happens to the narrator here? He actually suffers injuries in his ribs and mouth. So blood starts coming out of his mouth. He was almost puking blood only. So he was injured in his ribs. So now he just thought that he is going to die. Now his end is nearing, he thought. Then he had to fight for his survival. So that is the next stage here. He tells Mary, that is his wife, to take over the steering. He tells her to look after the steering, and this Larry and that is the other person, that is Herb, they both start pumping water out. Now the boat has holes in it. Okay, there were a few gaps in the wood which was there, and water started entering the boat. So now they had to pump it out. So they started pumping it out, but somehow it was not going on very quickly. They were doing it like mad people. Okay, so they were struggling a lot to pump out water from the boat. So he checks on the children in their cabin. He just goes back and checks on the children what they are doing in their cabin. So Susan, that is Sue, informs him about the bump on her head. Just imagine, some time back the boat was about to be overturned and it came back, right? So that time Sue and John were actually thrown here and there. So that time Sue gets hurt. Okay, so she had a bump on her head. Fine. She showed him that, but he doesn't pay much attention to that. His only intention was to save them. Fine. So he just doesn't concentrate much on Sue's injury. He just looks at her and he goes to check on John also, that is Jonathan. So what happens there? Jonathan says, we are not afraid to die if we all are together. So that kind of gives him some motivation. Okay, so now let us come to the next point, that is the hand pumps. When they are pumping that, right, so their hand pumps actually starts blocking. Okay, most of the water was thrown out, but their hand pump starts getting blocked because of the debris that enters. Okay, so there might be debris in the sea also. It starts entering the boat, and they with the intention of putting water out very quickly, they start pumping it more, and that time water enters the pump also and it starts blocking. So again and again it starts blocking. They had to remove the debris and then work on it. There was another electric pump, but that gets short circuited because water has entered into it. So that is also not working now. Somehow the narrator finds another spare electric pump. Then he connects it to an out pipe in order to drain out the water. So now there is a spare electric pump for him. Somehow he actually makes it start working. Then what happens? Even their mayday calls. Mayday calls are nothing but some calls for survival. They were in a remote place. Okay, they were not able to be heard there. Okay, whoever they sent that mayday calls, they actually made so many calls for help, but they were not heard at all. Like in seas, this is a practice. Whenever some crewmen are they are stuck in some problem or something, they give mayday calls. So that time other people, that is who are in the shore, they come and help them to get out of the situation. But here what happens? They are already in the remote part of the sea. That's why they were not heard, and even their mayday calls actually were not answered at all. So that also goes in vain. So Susan's injury comes into picture now. So what happens? Now Susan is asked once again what happened to her. She just replies that that is her father goes and asks. So she just tells that she did not want to bother him. Like she was already injured, she was not able to open her eyes only. First time narrator doesn't pay much attention to her injury, but second time when he goes and checks on that, Susan is seriously injured, she's not able to open her eyes at all. When he asked her, why didn't you tell me before, we could have done something, Susan says, I didn't want to bother you much because you were already running around here to save us. So that is what she tells. So she didn't want to bother him at all. When he asks Jonathan, the smaller boy, so he tells that, what are you doing? He says, if at all we are dying also, that's okay. If at all we are together while dying, that is fine for me. I'm not afraid to die, he says. That is the dialogue which is taken as the title of this story. We are not afraid to die if we all are together. Okay, so he says that also. Somehow the family manages to survive for 15 hours. Till now, it is almost 15 hours in that harsh weather. Okay, so it somehow survives for 15 hours, and then they start working in rotations. Okay, they were working in rotation means a kind of shift basis. Okay, for some time this person will work, others will rest, next the other person will work, so whoever has worked will take rest. So this way they decide to work on shifts. This actually works out somehow. Everybody's energy is not drained out, so they decide to work in rotations. Then now they prepare themselves to reach the nearest island. So that was the idea of the narrator. He tells, forget about reaching some destined land area. We'll somehow reach the nearest island so that we can repair the ship with the help of the instruments which we have. You know, the boat was about to be overturned and it comes back. That time few instruments were lost. Okay, few instruments were lost, some food was lost, so everything goes away over there. Now they had to work on whatever is left over. So what they do, the wave walker which was there, it was actually left in almost, it had not ruined it, that's all. Okay, so wave had actually spoiled it and it was in a very bad state. Now, it was not in a condition to make them reach the destined place. So, wherever they had to reach, they cannot go there with this condition of wave walker. They had to repair it, and then only they had to go. So, what they do, they decide to reach the nearest island, and that nearest island was this Isle Amsterdam. Okay, Isle Amsterdam, which was actually a French scientific base. Somehow with the map what he had, the narrator checks which is the nearest island and he decides to reach there. Now, they are looking for something which is quite far only. Okay, so now based on some guess, he just tells the person who is at the steering to steer 85 degrees towards the left. So he tells him that, and somehow he feels that he is losing his conscious and he just goes off to sleep. Okay, so he did not have energy at all. He just goes off to sleep. Actually have found some corned beef somewhere and they somehow eat it. Okay, whatever was left over, they share among themselves and they have it. So this was the first meal they had in these 2 days. Okay, so before whatever they had, they were eating, that is Christmas and all, they were eating something. But now in these 2 days, they were busy pumping the water and all. So they had somehow survived for 15 hours, all their energy was almost gone, they were about to be exhausted. That time they found this corned beef and they somehow ate it. The weather starts changing again. So it changed towards the worse again. Again the weather was deteriorating, and in the morning of Jan 5th, it started going down again. The weather started worsening. So this narrator was spellbound to see the fearlessness of Jonathan. He was actually inspired. So this Jonathan has told these words, isn't it? So he does not fear death as long as they all are together. So he is not afraid to die. So that is what inspires the father. So he just looks at the 2 children who are enjoying themselves even in such a condition. So he feels that he has to save the family. He has to safeguard them, being the captain of the family, he thinks. So he was spellbound. He was left with no words, looking at the fearlessness of the 6-year-old child. So he decides to take care of the family. He decides to save them somehow. Then he struggles as a captain now. So what does he do? So with all the moral support that he receives from his wife, his children also. So moral support, they are not able to do anything. They are not able to get up and steer, and then they are not able to run the ship. But the moral support, the support that they say that we all are there with you. We all are there together. So that boosts him. That boosts his spirits. So he goes there and checks what he can do. So wave walker sails through the storm somehow like this only, by pumping the water, then just doing the life raft skills and all. Somehow they do everything and they somehow survive the storm. So this wave walker is now out of the storm. So Sue gives him a greeting card. So is his daughter. Okay, Susan is the daughter and she gives a greeting card. She expresses that love and gratitude towards the father. So she is very happy. Like his father has made them cross the storm and she is very happy. She expresses love and gratitude towards that, and she shows optimism even in that situation. Okay, she is very positive. She tells him that we are going to survive. She talks all positive things. He is not very convinced that he has found the Amsterdam Isle. He just tells Larry to steer like almost 185 degrees. He tells him to steer, and that is towards the left. So he tells him that, and he hopes to find the island by the evening. So if at all they are lucky enough, they were supposed to find the island by evening. They were supposed to reach the island. Now he has lost almost his energy. He just sits there for a while, but he dozes off all of a sudden. So he has no energy now. He almost dozes off, and he is not aware of what is happening around him. But now the storm is gone. Now they are just sailing. They don't have an idea where they are reaching. Okay, so he just steers the wheel by 185 degrees just as a guess. He is not confident that they are going to reach that, but somehow they do it. Then what happens? Fortunately, they sail onto the island, and finally they reach this Amsterdam Isle by evening. The end of afternoon they were supposed to reach there, but by evening somehow they reach. Though little late, they reach that Amsterdam Isle. Now, what does John do? That is Jonathan do? He calls him the best captain. He gives a title to his father, that is best captain. Why does he do that? Because he is very confident that he's very happy that his dad has made them reach the safe place. So he calls him the best daddy in the whole world. So Jonathan is very happy, and at the same time this captain, that is the narrator, is also very happy. Somehow he gets up from his sleep. Okay, after a long rest, he gets up from his sleep. They've almost lost the path only. Okay, he gets up and he just checks. Then they are almost there in the Isle Amsterdam. So he is very happy. They had just gone by guess that 185 degrees they would reach there. But he had no idea that they would find the Amsterdam and they would reach there. But somehow they could reach it. So they were very happy. Then what do? Somehow they reach the island, as I said, they get offshore, somehow they get down, and with the help of the inhabitants, somehow they reach the island. Okay, so they get the help of this inhabitants, and they get the wave walker also repaired. Then stepping on the land after a very long time, isn't it? Such a long hours of voyage, and they reach the land, and the narrator's thoughts are actually very cheerful. Now he is very happy. Okay, he is happy that he is also alive. At the same time, he is happy that he was able to make the family, the whole family, reach the island also. Okay, so they were very happy, and also this Larry and the other person, Herb, okay, they were also very optimistic. Now everybody was very cooperative in this voyage, isn't it? So Mary, the wife, was also very supportive. At the same time, the 7-year-old girl, that is Susan, was also very brave. She also did not want to worry her parents. Okay, she did not want her parents to worry about her head injuries. So she did not even tell what had happened to her. Only in the end, they were able to recognize that she was not able to open her eyes. They got her operated and all. So after that, she was fine. And again, the 6-year-old boy who was not at all afraid to die, that is Jonathan. So because of all these people who were very positive and cooperative in the whole voyage, they were able to reach the land very safely. You were able to see the determination that was there in each and every person in this story. You can see Larry, Herb, how they were able to help the whole crew, how they were able to help the captain. Because of them, it was half of the reason for the whole family being alive is that they were able to pump the water very fast. That is one thing. And Mary, she never abused her husband for bringing them like this. So this captain, he was also very optimistic. He was also very, he was hopeful that they would reach the place. And the small children, so it is common that small children get scared for very small reason. But here it is totally opposite. The 7-year-old girl, she was matured enough to think in her father's shoes, isn't it? So she was not ready to worry her father just by showing the injuries to him. So she was also matured enough, and this small boy Jonathan, who filled lot of optimism, who filled lot of hope in the whole crew, was that he was not afraid to die if at all they were all together. So this story is an example of lot of optimism and the struggle, the determination that is there in each and every person at that point of time when they were about to die. So what I want you to do is, please go through the lesson, understand the emotions, just watch the video and then you will be able to understand the emotions. I want you to go through the each and every minute detail that is given there. Fine, this video will guide you to understand it properly. Okay, but reading each and every word and understanding is what you have to do. So please come prepared for the class. Let us meet again in the live class and another session of one more interesting topic. So take care, keep learning. Thank you for your time. See you soon. Bye-bye.